Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. So you're able to hear? Okay, so probably
Yes, sir.
in this, probably in this session, I'm going to cover up overview of the Photoshop, like Photoshop, how we can utilize it. Of course, we are not going to become an expert in that. We're not getting it through with all the options, probably. So we'll be using some basic options which I use, which you can use for creating some images. And probably you can see there are some sample images on the screen here. So you can use them and do some kind of editing, just adding some text. It can be like Quranic words. Probably here you can see one example relevant to feeding the poor, or it can be anything, like it can be an Sahih Hadith with references. Background, you will be using some kind of image which is more relevant to that one. And of course, you will be adding some logo and other stuff. Okay, so this is something we'll be using here. For this, for the first step, just make sure that you install the Photoshop. Install that. Any version. I'm using some older version, probably Photoshop 7, which I'm using. Maybe if your PC supports the new one, you can install. Probably I have shared that in the Google Drive. You can go through with that Google Drive, probably where I have shared all the files in OneDrive. Probably will get access to that. So you can let me know. Share your email addresses so that I'll give access individually. So I'll be adding that email address for access. Okay, so installing Photoshop, I hope you know, basically it's a simple setup file. And once you install that, probably we'll see a few options here how we can go with. Like starting with the first one. The first one is we'll be using a new file here, probably just like any new file. You can go with a new file. Now, depending upon the settings, what you set here, the file size will vary, because the default size, if I take the default size, it looks like this. Okay, so probably if you take a different size, depending upon that width, and those options will change. Like normally the one which I'm using here, if you just check this settings, probably this is something what is something I'll be using standard size 1000 width and 576 probably in pixels. So you can follow the same one while you are selecting the new document, and once you select these things, automatically next time onwards it will show you the same options. So you can set the width and you can set the height probably, and you can also select white background, transparent background. Generally we use white background. You can also add a transparent background. I think I added some more numbers here. Okay, so just a minute. This is actually in inches, so I should change this to pixel. You can also just if you are more familiar, you can try these options. Basically, I'm not getting into details of all the things which are really not required, because here I don't want you to make an expert in the Photoshop. Even I'm not. But the basic options what I use generally for our images, whether in my company or probably the images which I used for our website, the Al Haq Foundation website, probably you can use the same. Okay, so this is the first thing. Now the next thing is you need to know some options here. On the left side, you will find, let me just quickly move these files. This is our main file which you are going to work. Okay, so probably on these options, you'll find some options on the left side. We'll be using some of the tools here, not too much tools we'll use. And on the right side, you'll find something called layers. So this is something we'll be using, and these options we'll be using here. Apart from that, most of the options we don't use. Okay, so the first thing is we need to set the background. So background, you can select the image. So if you have already an image, like here you can see this is the image, I can simply drag and drop here. select this layer and drag and drop the image, or I can even select the text here. Now the first thing you need to understand is the layers. So every new object you insert here, like this image is one object and this text is your second object here. Now these two objects, it will create something called layers here. So you'll have one layer here. You can see this is one layer and this is one layer. This is layer one and this is layer two. So like that, you keep on add any new things. Like let's say I'm adding one more text here, maybe from this image. So this will become another layer again. So when you are working with this, the main thing you need to know is you need to know the layers, because whichever the layer you select, whatever the effects, it will apply to that only. Like here, if I move my cursor, I can move this one, because here you can see this is the layer selected. If I select this layer, then I can move this one, and if I'm selecting the background image, I can move the this one. So depending upon which layer you select, this is very important, because it's not like your notepad file where you just move the cursor, something like that. So this is the first thing. First thing you need to know the layers, and the way you select the layers, you can select from here. This is one option. Or second option is you can right click here and select the layer. Probably if you move that near to that, probably near to that, like this is layer one, you can select and move this way. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand the layers. Like on the right side, the layers are important. Layers are nothing but the objects what you select. Let me just quickly delete them. If you want to delete the layers, just right click here and delete. Any layer you want to delete, probably you can delete from here. Like here, I'm deleting this layer. So this is the first thing you need to know. So the first option is installing the Photoshop, and probably after that we have seen selecting a new file and the size. So I have gone with 1024,576 pixels. That's a height, that's a width and height. And the third thing is we have discussed something about layers. So layers are nothing but the individual objects we are going to insert in that particular file. So you have to select that particular object or the layer to make any changes. Okay, so now we are ready to go with. So let's say I want to create the same exact image. Probably what I can do is any image. These are the sample images. I'm using these sample images just to make our job easier, not to go here and there. So next thing is you need to decide whatever the context you have decided. You can decide the background image. What will be the background image you are going to use? The next thing. Now for background images, again you can Google it. Probably let's say whatever here. Let's say relating to education, something like this. You can type in and you can search for the specific images. Okay, or you can say. Okay, so you can select the images. Make sure that you are not using any images. Okay, any image you can use. Again, you have to select specific images. So I'm going to randomly select any one of the image. Just make sure that the quality of this is good. So let's say I'm going to use this image. Okay, I'll just copy. You can either save the file or you can simply copy from here and you can paste it here, like Control V. I think this is transparent image. So let's say I'm using this one. Let's say you want to show the computer skills, like apart from Islamic studies, also we want to say there is a computer skills required. Probably this is the image. Now, depending upon the options here. Okay, so that's the first thing. Select the background image. Now, once you select the background image, the next thing you will be doing is you'll be going through with some adjustment. Probably you have to adjust these things. Maybe the size you need, you'll be adjusting. Probably the color, or you want to change the color. Probably those things we can adjust. Now to adjust this, I just remember the shortcut keys, a Control T. you can use Control plus T button. Make sure that whenever you are doing these things, this is important. Whenever you are doing these things, you can see when I press Control T, it will change this. I think we call this as a transform option. It must be somewhere. Okay, I don't remember the exact where it is, but there will be an option of transform. So I recommend you to use the keys. I don't even remember where it is. Okay, but make sure that you select this object here. Now when you select Control T, it will change the size. You can use Shift button to automatically adjust the equal size. Okay, probably you can drag this way. Even you want to adjust, make sure that you use Shift button. If you don't use Shift button, the problem is again the size. Let's say, let me show you without Shift button, probably you will see the image will go here and there. So use Shift button, drag it by pressing the Shift button. Okay, I'm pressing the Shift button here while dragging it, and I want to make this as a complete screen here. Okay, so press enter. Once you press enter, the transform will change. Now you can see the size. You don't see the border lines on the outside. So this is the first thing. So the first thing, you need to adjust the image as per your screen. Control T. That's something we adjust the size, and of course you can change the color. Color, if you want, you can change. There is another shortcut key. You use Control U. That's another key we'll be using here. Now Control U. When you press Control U, we call this a hue and saturation feature. So with this, we can adjust the colors depending upon the image requirements. You can change. Like here, you can see the lightness. You can change it to a little bit darker or dark side. Change the tabs, or you can make it light. So this is lightness. Let's say I'm doing like this, or saturation. The saturation is again like color. This. The difference. You can see the differences here. You can apply multiple, or you can just keep it 0. I don't want to change it, or you can even change the colors. The way it looks. Hue is like the way you can see here. So how you want it. If you want, you can change all these things. I'm not saying you should use all the options. Any one you can use, or sometimes the combination looks good, so you need to figure out that. Okay, so let's say I'm just keeping it like this. Okay, so this, I'll just keep it to 0. I'll just change the lightness here, or I can increase it. Okay, so looks good. Now we can save the file. If you want, you can just save the same way. Like you go to file and save. I'm not saving it here right now. The next thing will be applying some kind of text. Now text is nothing but here, in our case, it will be like any references you would like to add, or any quotes you would like to add, you can add to that particular image. Okay, so like here you can see this is the same thing. I'll take the same text here. Now to select the text, now again you need to know the first thing to select the text. Again, to select the object, this is a select object. So every time you want to move this layer, you need to make sure that you select this cursor. There are other options as well. So I'm not getting into this option. This option, I'll come to this. But right now we need this one, the text, T text. Now just you need to select that text. You can see the cursor will change, and you can click here. When you click there, means you can see the cursor is blinking. Now what I can do is I can type in whatever, or I'm just going to paste the same code from here. Okay, or whatever you copy, the same you can paste. Control V have used shortcut. Okay, I'm using paste here. Okay, just for your understanding. So now you can, if you want to move this text from here and there, again you cannot move from here now. Now this is like selection. Now just remember the two things: the cursor is something you have to remember, and of course which layer is selected here. That's important. So we'll be selecting this one. Now again this layer is selected. You can see there are two layers now. One is the image, the other one is the text. So now what I'm doing is the pen cursor is actually the screenwriting which I'm using. Now I want this to be present here, let's say, or here. I'll show you both the options. Okay, first we'll keep it here. Okay, let's say I want this text to be here. Now decide the location. Now once you decide the location where exactly it fits, you can change the size. Okay, so add the text. Now we can change the size, you can change the font, you can change the style, that is font style, same thing. So all these options, again you have to see the text option and then select the text. From here you can change. You can see here the options. You can move the cursor to just see all the options, but make sure that you select the text. Okay, so from here you can change. Let's say this is the text what I decided, and of course here regular bold options, and here you can change the sizes. So as per your size, or you can select here, you can use the arrow keys to move up and down to adjust as per your requirements. And additionally, you have additional options. I think you can use sharp, script, strong. There will be slight differences. Smooth, there will be options. So most likely those options. Okay. Now once you decide this one, again color is also important. So color you have to select as per the screen requirements. Let's say as per this one, maybe black doesn't suit, so probably what I'm doing is I'll be using whatever it requires. Now again you need to decide the proper color. That is again important. So let's say I'm using some, okay, so again we can make some adjustments. Probably I'm just selecting random color here. Let's say I'm just using, let's say if I'm using white, doesn't fit, but still you can make some adjustments. Okay, but whatever the color you can decide. Let's say here I'm selecting white. Now once we select all these things, but again you see the text is not clear. Like if you check these options, okay, so if you try to see the options on the other side, you can see here this is already created, which I created. You can see the text is not as highlighted as it has to be. Now the next thing, you need to highlight the text. That is important. So text should be highlighted. So to highlight the text, now what we'll be doing is we'll be adding some effects to that. Okay, so probably what we'll be doing, we'll be adding some effects. Now those effects, here we call them as blending options. So I'll show you the options which I commonly use. So you need to right click on the layer here. So here again, we do have a layer. Right click on the text layer. This is the image, this is the text. Right click on it. And here you will find blending options. So remember this option, blending options. And here you will find these options. Now depending upon, you can see drop shadow. You have a background shadow, and you can also add inner shadow. Probably you don't add all, because all will not suit most of the time. So drop shadow is something suits most of the time. You can add outer glow. Outer glow is something you can add. Sometimes it works, sometimes depending upon the color you select. Again, I'm adding inner glow here. Bevel compass is just like, you can see the difference. I can't explain exactly the effect, but you can see the difference here when you add this. I'm not adding the main part which I use is the stroke one. Now stroke is when you select this option, again you have multiple options in that. Again, you can, the shadow, you can change these things. There are plenty of options. Again, in the stroke, again you can change the border color. Stroke is nothing but border line for the text. Now border line is going to highlight that one. Now this border line is totally depending upon what kind of background you are using at the back end. So if I'm using I think I'm also adding this gradient. I'll remove this. So now you can see, even though the text is white and also the major part of your image is also white, but still you can see the text is highlighted. And this borderline you can increase from here. So how bigger the border should look, you can add this one. So additionally, you can add inner shadow or outer glow. Now these options I'm just showing you. You can try these options. This one you can see now. So even though it is black, let me just change this one. The stroke is very thick. You can reduce it. Just use cursor keys. I'm using cursor keys 5, I think 5 or 4. 3 most of the time works. If you want a little bit more better border, you can see this is the option. Okay, so this way we can highlight the text. This option is highlight the text. Of course, the fonts and other things I have already discussed. So in the blending options, I'll be using majorly stroke. Of course, the shadow options. And if you want, you can use other options. You can try it out because we are professionals. So basically, I'm not, as I said, I'm not going to make you an expert in Photoshop, but the simple options which will be used to set up these things. Okay, so next thing is like what we can do is additionally, if you want to add a specific logo, if you have that transparent particular image, you can insert that image. Probably you can add that image, or you can open up that particular image. Let's say here I want to add a logo. What I'll do is I'll open up one of the logo. Okay. So this one, this file, you can any image file you can open up. Like this is the logo here. Actually, it's a transparent logo. You can open up with the Photoshop, and you can drag and drop from here. Of course, you can need to adjust this one as well. Now, same way I did the same thing here. Of course, you have to adjust this. One time, if you just make this one set, then you don't need to do it each and every time. You have a pre-configured template. Only the thing you change the text, you change the background. That's it. Okay, this is one sample. I'll delete this logo because I'll be using a different logo here. Let's say you need to add a logo, whatever the specific. Let's say we are working on behalf of a trust, so probably we'll add a logo, and then we can add some contact details if you want as another text. I can duplicate this layer, like select this layer and select this layer and duplicate means I can create one more copy of that, and I can take this one and I can change the text. Select this tool again, remember, select this tool, and I can say contact details, or you can say WhatsApp numbers, or if you are doing some kind of fundraising for fund transfer, whatever, whatever the details you can add according to that. Okay, something like this. So you can just add the details and address, probably if you want to add any specific address or anything, and you can adjust the same thing. Like font, you would like to adjust the font here a little bit smaller, you can adjust, and you can set here right side, left side, wherever you want. You can move accordingly as per the image. You can change these positions. Okay, so once we do this is one part. Now there is one more thing I'll show you. So, like you can also adjust a few other things. Like here, this is different option. Let me see this one. This is also the same thing. You can see the same options. Here I have added 3-4 images. Let's say if you want to add one more text, you can add one more text here as well. You can just come here and select text, click here, and then add this one. Okay, so like that you can add multiple things, but it's better to keep a little bit less text to be more specific. And the next thing is, I'll show you one more thing. I think this layer is selected. Let me change this. Okay, change this to layer, this one. Now what I want is, I want to add, let's say sometimes even if you apply this this border and options, still sometimes it will not be clear. Let's say let me just remove this. What I'll do is I'll show you one more way. I'll go to the blending options and I'll remove the stroke. Okay. Now what you want is you want this to look better, but without stroke. There's another option. Select the image layer. The layer one is your image. And you can select this tool. This is the selection tool, the first one, selection tool. And we can select this particular part or any part of your image. I can use Control U again, and I can change the lightness of selected things, selected part of your image. You can change this one. So maybe you just want to display this, and that should be like complete change in the background. Okay, now you can see only that particular portion is actually getting changed. You can do this way. This is one more way. Like you'll see there will be images and then there will be some gray backgrounds only for selected part. Again, if you move this is actually part of image. So if you're moving the text again, before you do this, make sure that you select the position of your text. That is important, because if you gray out here and again you change the position to here, again you have to do this part and the complete image will go wrong. Again, you have to reinsert the image, delete the previous one. So this is another way. Instead of that, this is one more way you can do. Of course, the colors you have to decide. Most of the time I'll be using yellow color. Yellow is something I'll use for most of the dark backgrounds. Yellow, white, green, this kind of suits, not dark colors. And for light, still, different colors will suit. Okay, you have to just decide that. You can see this is another way to do. Same thing you can do for this one also. Let's say I want to do the same thing for this part, just for the address. So this part will get highlighted, so you can change that particular part. This is one more option. So even you can change this logo also, how it looks. Again, Control U to change the saturation. Of course, this will not change because this is not a transparent complete image, but still you can change this, the saturation. I think hue or option or saturation, just to change the appearance of the color kind of thing. You can still do that. This option. Rest of the options, most of the time we never use. I never use, even for my advertisements or whatever I use these options. And let me quickly add final thing. Final thing is like saving. You can save this file. When you save this file, it will be saved as a default file. Let's say I'm going to save it on my desktop. Better you save it on one specific folder, the sample file 1, just for easy reference meantime. And whenever you are completed, then you want to make this as a normal image, because Photoshop file you cannot use for normal images. So you can simply go and save as. Now here you have to select the JPEG image. Now this image, JPEG, is a format which we use generally everywhere. So I'm going to use this image format and select the quality. Just you can select 10, 12 and click OK. So now it will create the image. Now this image you can open up from here. Now this is the image. I think this is the Photoshop file. Let me see the sample. This one. This is the one which we created just now. Okay. The same image. Either you have this file. This is a normal JPG file. This one. And this one is your Photoshop format. Now later on, whenever you want to make any changes, you can always open up this file. Let's say I want to create a new image. What I can do is I can do the same thing. Go to File, New. Or you can use the same. I recommend you to use the same. Just let's say I'm creating a new image, because the standard format is ready. The template is ready for you. Now let's say I'm going to use this one and I'll save it as sample2 or whatever the name you want to give. Save it as, and change the text. Text will change. Of course, we'll change the image as well. Let's say the text I'm going to change to this one. So I'll be changing the image, changing the text. You can also change the effects, because this which I copied, it already have effects. But if you're copying the text from a normal web page or anywhere, you will get into normal, the same effects you'll get whatever you have mostly. Okay, so this is one more thing. And finally, this contact number will not change, this logo will not change. And you can also change the background image. You can delete this one, delete the layer from the right side, and you can go and search for any other image. Let's say I'm using this image. I can copy this. Make sure that this image is high quality, because so that when you are dragging this, that should not impact the quality of the image. That is the only thing you need to check. You can type HD background, something like that, HD. And again, you have to adjust the same thing you have to adjust. Let's say quickly I'll do it for your reference. So I'll select the background image and then select this part which I want to highlight. I can change this one. If this looks good, then I'll go with this. Of course, these options I never use. Either you can go this option, or you can also go with blending option. I'm also adding that one as well. The blending options, let's say I'll just apply the stroke, and the stroke will be the black stroke. Okay, so already it has a stroke. I think I didn't select the text. This is important, you need to make sure that you select the right option, blending options. I think the effects are different here. You have a drop shadow effect, and this one is there. Of course, there's no stroke. We'll be adding the stroke here. Stroke is black. And additionally, you can add other options. So the same way you have to go, okay? So this is how you use. So specific topics, specific codes you want to add, you can just go with this. Roughly, it will not take more than 15-20 minutes once you get used to this one. Initially, it may take time, because initially you need to understand these options, maybe a couple of days, maybe a week. But once you are through with the options, I'll share the link of the video. Probably you can use this to again revise, but make sure that you don't share the video with any unauthorized people. Probably that's something I suggest. Okay,